Hello and welcome to On to the Next Thing. I'm your host, Michael. And that's it. Today's a solo episode, which means that it is going to be for the boys. And what I mean by that is that since I am not, I'm not really familiar with how to be a woman, I'm going to be mostly just discussing life advice related to young men like myself for the day. So it's going to run through a couple different things, but before then, I've got to get into news, and that of course means bird news. So the bird news for today, or rather for this week, it's supposed to be a weekly podcast, but had a little bit of leeway on that, but whatever, we're chilling. Today's bird headline is Georgia doctor sentenced in largest ever rare bird trafficking case. And so I found this out with a brief Google search of bird news, and apparently Google's web crawling system is still good enough where it can actually find news related to birds when you type in bird news, as opposed just to finding some like AI website called birdnews.com or something like that. This is from Fox 5, the premier online news source for birds and bird-related incidents. And so apparently this guy, his name is Dr. John Waldrop, and he was fined almost $1 million for trafficking over 4,000 rare bird mounts and eggs, many of which were protected under international law. I'll read the quick excerpt. Georgia reconstructive orthopedic... Ooh, that's a rough one. A Georgia reconstructive orthopedic surgeon and a farm worker have been sentenced in what federal authorities are called one of the largest bird trafficking cases in U.S. history, involving thousands of rare and protected bird specimens and eggs smuggled into the country. Before we continue, I'm wondering how this reconstructive orthopedic surgeon and a farm worker, like that, what type of that's got to be a buddy movie in the making. Just someone who totally has their life together, and then someone who labors on a farm for a living, get together over their shared love of illegally smuggling birds. I love it. Send that to Scorsese. The collection included extremely rare eggs, says the subheadline. And so we'll talk a little bit about the prime culprit here. So his name is Dr. John Waldrop. He's 76 years old. So this guy is like, he should be retired, but he isn't, because that's just not the world we live in anymore. But yeah, I guess he was sentenced to 3 years probation and given order to pay a $900 fine, or $900,000 fine. So I mean, what's that amount of money per bird? You can do a little quick math here. It's shut up, cat. God damn it, shut up, cat. So that's about $225 per bird. I just did that in my head. So good at this. But yeah, he had a giant private collection. So 1,400 taxidermy bird mounts, which I guess means just dead birds that he taxidermied or had someone else taxidermy. And then over 2,500 bird eggs, which is, I don't even know why you would want those, unless you're turning them into decorations, but it's still kind of fucked up, just having petrified bird eggs. Like, who wants that? This doesn't make any sense. I guess, he wasn't even selling them. It's just a hobby of his. So, I mean, I guess this guy has to have been retired, right? Is he retired? So it would be ridiculous if he was still an active orthopedic surgeon and was just on the side, was just spending hours and hours trying to collect rare bird eggs and dead birds. It's 2024. Resident and a farm worker, but they don't talk about the farm worker. I guess that person doesn't matter, or maybe they're still at large. You could still have some. Could still have a culprit out there, running around collecting birds, just stealing pigeon eggs out of trees. You graduated from Dr. John. He graduated from Augusta University Medical College of Georgia in 1974, and he has practiced medicine for over 50 years. So I guess he's still practicing. I don't know. That's crazy. eBay and Etsy. I guess it's just You know, this is kind of a sad case because he's not even killing the birds. He's just shipping them in. He's not importing like live birds. He's just importing dead birds. So I don't know. I think this guy, I'd say this is more of a harmless weirdo type of thing. Waldrop's gigantic and rare bird collection was bolstered in part by illegal imports, where he and his enlisted co-conspirators intentionally avoided permit and declaration requirements, said Acting Assistant Attorney General Adam Gustafsson of the U.S. Department of Justice's Environment and Natural Resources Division. Wow. So, you know what? That's just, I don't know. I recommend that you take a look at this article because it has some pictures of his collection, which is just a shitload of dead birds and old eggs. And he has some of them like kind of displayed, but also a lot of them are just kind of haphazardly posed up on like the freaking structural beam, like that's holding up his roof. What's that called again? I-beam? No, I-beams are made of steel. Crossbeam. Something like that. The big support beam on his roof is just full of dead birds. And yeah, so I guess whatever. That's bird news. That's bird news for this week because that's crazy. But it wasn't what I expected. I really thought that he was just going to be collecting or like going out on safaris, but he's actually just on eBay and Etsy, just collecting dead birds and dead bird eggs. Absolutely bizarre. Apparently he was trying to supplement it with wood carvings. Oh, he said that during sentencing as like a defense. During sentencing on Wednesday, Dr. Waldrop reportedly told the judge that he has started to collect custom wood carvings to replace his obsessive hobby of collecting birds. Catalua is located. Yeah, no, okay. That's wild. He's like, don't worry, Judge, I've changed. Now instead I'm going to obsessively collect wood carvings instead of dead birds. Well, that sounds like an upstanding citizen to me. I don't know. I'm just glad that he's able to repent and find some peace after committing these horrific crimes against our beautiful, perfect trade system. Anyway, what else do we got? This is going to be a shorter episode. I don't have a guest today. I don't have a lot of things to talk about. I mean, if there's things to talk about, to be honest, you're already seeing them. And you're not going to get much better by hearing about it from me. But I mean, yeah. What are some of my recommendations for this week? Well, I've been reading. I'm trying to get back into the classics, trying to make my brain better by reading the classics. And to start on my journey back into the classics, I'm reading the Three Musketeers, essentially known as a action adventure children's book. But you know what, it's Alexandre Dumas, and he's a great writer, so it's technically a classic, and I'm sticking with it. But yeah, you know what, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have read the Three Musketeers, or at least heard it referenced. Three Musketeers is my favorite candy bar. You know, they've made a bunch of old movies about it. There hasn't been a Three Musketeers movie in a while, but you know, it's culturally iconic. They had a bit about it in American Dad. It's cool. But the book is something different because I personally really enjoy it because, you know, it kind of goes back to my roots of how I used to read, which is just reading for action and events and spicy one-liners and shit like that. That's you know, nothing too deep, nothing with crazy character depth or you know, nothing crazy emotional or like really delving into the meaning of life for the human experience. But just a very fast-paced adventure, and then also there's a lot of history involved, and you get kind of it's exaggerated as Dumas tends to do in his fiction, especially in his kind of his period piece settings that he does in Count of Monte Cristo and in Three Musketeers. It's basically kind of like exaggerations of what history understands or how history understands people to have acted at the time. It also contains some historical figures like the Count Richelieu, which I'm pretty sure I was 100% correct with that pronunciation. But you know who I'm talking about. It's not Count Richelieu, Cardinal Richelieu is in the church. But yeah, it's set in kind of that shaky period after during the wars of religion in France, and yeah, and it follows this young man who aspires to be one of the king's like elite guards known as the Musketeers. And so he meets three kind of veterans of the Musketeers and impresses them all to the point where he sort of ends up becoming their leader due to his bravery and skill and intelligence. Basically, just kind of like the character's name is oh shit. I was gonna search up the pronunciation before I started talking, but let's just look this up. DR10. Yeah. Let's see. Oop. The cat is screaming again. How about that? How do you pronounce that? Pronunciation. How about that? D'Artagnan. D'Artagnan. Huh. D'Artagnan. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Yes. So that's the main character. The main character of the Three Musketeers isn't actually one of the Three Musketeers who our protagonist meets. But the main character's name is D'Artagnan, who becomes a musketeer, but isn't one of the Three Musketeers, who's Athos, Porthos, and Aramis. Cat, shut up. Oh my god. Jesus. Or Aramis. Yeah, Athos, Porthos, and Aramis. Right. Those are the Three Musketeers, but they aren't the main protagonist. The main protagonist is D'Artagnan, who's this young guy, like this 19-year-old crazy dude from like the bumpkin country of France, whose father knows like the captain of the Musketeers, and so he goes, and there's this whole adventure and all this intrigue with between the king and the Cardinal Richelieu and the queen and all these other nobles and crazy cast of characters. So far, I'm only about a quarter, maybe a third of the way into the book, so I don't even have any spoilers to announce, even if I wanted to. But okay, stupid cat, screaming and climbing into clothes. I wish there's gonna be an advice episode about cats at some point, and it's gonna be like 3 hours long, because holy shit, this cat is nuts. Endless caveats to taking care of cats. Oh good, here's the other one. Hey buddy. Okay, you're not gonna scream at me, right? Cool. Right, anyway, Three Musketeers. It's a classic, so I mean, some of the words are a little dense. I mean, Dumas is he's a fantastic writer. He was a fantastic writer, and so there's some hard words in there, but it's not exactly, I said dense, but it's not like a dense, difficult read by any means. It moves quite fast. It's not particularly difficult to figure out what characters mean when they say things or when they do certain actions. And if you don't know the whole story going in, it's got twists and turns that you might not expect. I sure didn't, because I hadn't thought about the Three Musketeers since I first heard about it when I was a kid, and I only decided to start reading it recently because I've been on a tear on my reading list. But yeah, so I didn't really know much about the plot other than there's Three Musketeers. I didn't even realize there was a guy called D'Artagnan, which doesn't really sound French, but I guess he's from the Gascon subculture of France, and So I guess maybe things are pronounced different there. Or Google's wrong, which is totally an option. Mm. But yeah, Three Musketeers, highly recommend. Um, yeah, a lot of action, cool history stuff if you're into that. And I assume probably a romance at some point. I'm getting to a point where there's starting to be a little bit of romantic attachment between some of the characters. Probably not between the Three Musketeers themselves, although I wouldn't rule that out. It's France, it's the Renaissance, anything can go. But yeah, definitely recommend that. As far as music, uh, I've been listening to a lot of stuff, of course, yeah. But I've been listening to some J. Cole recently. I've been listening to a lot of alternative rock and dream pop as well. Mini Trees is one that I've been listening to pretty consistently over the past couple months. They're they're a smaller indie group, but they have a very good band and a very not totally unique sound, but very pretty and well put together, and really good for chill vibes. On the less chill end of my music spectrum, I'm listening to some grindcore particularly because I was going to a show in the past week that had some different grindcore bands. One band I've been listening to a lot of is Worm Rot. They're from Singapore, and I didn't really know much about them at first, but apparently they're considered one of the top 10 grindcore bands in the world at the moment. And I honestly didn't really know what grindcore is. Well, I knew it was I knew it was in the sphere of metal and like kind of like hardcore and all the cores, like metalcore. I don't really like metalcore. Grindcore though, pretty cool because it's kind of like shouty and punk rock, kind of like hardcore, but also um, basically just like really heavy, like shredding metal. Um, I don't know if this is consistent across all grindcore groups, but I noticed that the ones at the show that I went to, 2 out of the 3 didn't have bassists. It was just vocalists just screaming and growling and doing grindcore shit. And then a guitarist and a drummer. And but the guitarist and the drummer both had to be on their fucking game because it's it's fast paced and ferocious music, and does not look particularly easy to play. I'm sure it isn't, but I'm an amateur musician at best, so it doesn't really matter what my opinion is. But it doesn't look it looks pretty difficult, and it sounds difficult. But yeah, I've been getting into it. It's good workout music, which is something I'm gonna get into shortly. But yeah, grindcore, worm rat. No, not worm rat. Jesus Christ, cats, fuck off. Cats, fuck off. Okay. Worm Rot from Singapore. They're pretty cool. They just kind of got back together. They thought they kind of were going to break up last year, but then they got back together and they're on tour. Pretty awesome. Yeah, that's music. Movies. Haven't watched a lot of movies. I watched part of Craven the Hunter. That sucked, so I didn't watch the whole thing. Um, Recently, I watched Mickey 17, which is a lot better. It's an adaptation of a science fiction novel called Mickey 7. And it's about a guy who signs up to basically just be re-cloned and have his memories restored over and over again as a expendable part of an expedition to a uninhabited planet, or what they think is an uninhabited planet. Yeah, it has Robert Pattinson in it and some other people, and it's directed by the director of Parasite, so whose name I'm not going to try and freeball right now. So, but the movie Parasite. It's the same director, South Korean, very particular style, but very very talented director. He's made a lot of good movies. So yeah, those are kind of my recommendations for pop culture, which means we get into the advice that I may or may not be qualified to give. Legally, this is not real advice. This is not legal advice. This is not legal advice. I wasn't gonna try and give you legal advice anyway, but this is not. Just take what I say with a grain of salt. These are my opinions that you can take as advice. don't want to get sued by someone here because they try and bench what I can bench, and then they shatter their weak little collarbone or whatever. But yeah, I guess getting right into that, I think as being a adult man for, let's say, a few years now, there's definitely there's kind of there's, I don't want to say pillars because that makes me sound like a weird philosophy person who's trying to like be like, here's the three pillars of manhood. But there's definitely like there's definitely some like bases of men's health that are important for a variety of reasons. The one that everyone talks about is physical health. But not in the way of like you need to try and become the strongest that you can possibly be or the most built that you can possibly be. I've noticed anecdotally, and I guess other like actual journalists have noticed this too, there's an obsession with getting fucking huge. Like you have to be the biggest motherfucker. And it's not even about functional strength. It's literally just about building muscles until like, I don't know, until people admire you or are afraid of you or something. And it's bizarre. You shouldn't, like, in my mind, you shouldn't try and get strong so people are afraid of you. That really does you way fewer favors in the real world than you think. Like you're trying to get built up for the apocalypse, maybe, where it becomes more intimidating, but in the apocalypse you're not going to get that protein content anyway. So once again, I don't know why like intimidation is not a good reason to try and get built up. Now, trying to get strong is a different story because that has actual functional benefits in the real world. Whether you're doing, kind of blue collar or more manual work, or if you're in some sort of sports league or you're into martial arts or something like that, then strength training is very important. And finally, strength training is important just because it's good cardiovascular exercise, and heart disease and heart attacks is currently, as far as I know, still the leading cause of death in this country. So strength training is good for the heart, so that should be enough reasoning to do it, especially if you're not super into running or cardio, which you should do also, but you can do both or one or the other, but as long as you're getting some exercise for your heart, that's important. And that reasoning should really supersede, getting strong for, some physical reason, like, oh, I need to like move furniture around for work, or like, and even worse, like, oh, I need to get big and strong so I can fucking mad dog people at the bar or whatever. It's stupid. It's a stupid thing to try and just like be like, yeah, in a world where people are unpredictable and like real world fights aren't just like MMA rules based fist fights. Like, oh, I should just become the strongest I should be, and then I become invincible. I once knew a dude back in high school. He was really into bodybuilding and getting super ripped, and he was like pretty certain. I honestly, to this day, I couldn't tell if he was fucking with us because he was like mentally ill. But at the time, don't know how he's doing now. Hope he's okay. But he literally thought that he was built enough where his muscle could stop like a bullet. Like if let's say an active shooter came into the school, he was like pretty sure that he could take a bullet and get to the guy before or he could die. And this is like that's the stupid level of let's call it masculinity culture, where it's like, oh yeah, if I just punish my body hard enough, I'm going to get so hard and so tough that I'm going to be stronger than a bullet, and I can save the day through violence. Which, once again, generally in the real world, not a useful mindset to have, not really a useful attribute to have. Like, number one, it's just not going to work. Like, you're made of freaking meat, dude. Like, your muscle doesn't turn into freaking your muscle doesn't actually turn into iron, when you pump. That's not what that is. Like it's stupid. So I mean, he was fucking with us, probably just trying to start an argument just so people would actually talk to him in the locker room instead of just sort of avoiding eye contact with him, which is what you normally do with a guy like that in the locker room. But I mean, like it's that's kind of the story that comes to mind when I think of, bodybuilding influencers and people who just want to get just super fucking built at all costs. Not even like losing weight, just like you should just go fucking muscled and huge, and you to just eat eat fucking 5,000 calories a day and take substances and shit like that. And sure, if you want to build muscle, you need a protein surplus. But like to me, once again, just an opinion, not something that should be taken as law, but trying to build that much muscle to the to bodybuilding muscle, unless you're like gonna go and compete and try and like make money from it and make a living off of that, like what's the point? It's a waste of resources. It puts needless stress on your heart and on your cardiovascular system. It's probably mentally taxing as you try and compare yourself to all these other dudes with far more resources and far more resources and far more time on their hands than you might have. It's kind of a ridiculous thing to try and be like, oh yeah, like you are stronger and better and more alpha if you just have like more like basically more like arm muscle or more freaking titty meat on your chest. Like it doesn't make any sense. It's so stupid. But I absolutely do advocate for working out and exercising. But there's a lot of ways to do that. There's a lot of ways to exercise to stay healthy. That's not Jesus, podcasting is hard. I don't recommend podcasting as a source of exercise or cardiovascular health. It mostly just wears out your larynx, and then you realize how weak your voice box is. I may have to get up and take a break for a second, but before I do that, there's a lot of ways to exercise to stay healthy that do still make you strong. For example, I mean, let's go with me. I'm probably closest to the average, like, gym rat bodybuilding type thing. Except I'm not aiming for bodybuilding. I'm trying to aim for building strength, which is different. Building strength, I'm not trying to pump myself up ridiculously and hurt my body in order to gain, extra muscle mass. I work in, over time, I try to increase the weights in different lifts I'm doing, whether that's bench press or goblet squats, because I'm still too much of a dweeb to use the squat rack without hurting my little neck bones. But bench press, goblet squats, I use a lot of dumbbells, dumbbell curls, overhead presses, using pull downs, things like that. Yes, all those sort of things. I try and increase the weight over time, but I'm not just trying to increase the weight. I'm also trying to increase the amount of repetition and the endurance that I can muster in order to keep lifting heavier weights for the same amount of reps as I had before or more. And doing this, I mean, sure, it doesn't maximize the amount of doesn't not focusing on just constantly increasing weight. That doesn't maximize the amount of muscle that I build, but it certainly builds functionality. It helps prevent injury because your body, like doing stuff over and over again, it's like practicing anything else. Your body gets used to it, and you have a better understanding of your limits and whether you can push further, simply by slowing down and just trying like a certain weight for a week, doing a number of reps, working on a new arbitrary number of reps that you want to do, and then getting comfortable with that before you move up in weight. And I haven't had a serious injury while working out in like probably about 2 years. I've never really had a serious injury, but I did wrench my back a couple of times in college because I was, I wasn't eating enough. And I was trying to like really push myself into a weight class on the bench press that I wasn't ready for. And so doing that, I got mad, I panicked, I lost form, and I twisted my back, and that screwed up my back for like a week and a half. And a few years down the road now would probably have screwed up my back even worse. But that was also all before I got on a nutrition regimen, which is arguably even more important than actually getting in there and lifting weights or whatever if you want to build strength. I can't say that maybe this makes me an idiot. Maybe there is a diet out there of of only one part of the one section of the food pyramid that really just builds you up, or makes you a cardio machine, or I don't know, makes your balls bigger or something. But like honestly, just trying to get as many different types of nutrients as you can, and then while also maximizing protein to an extent that's healthy. Like you don't want to, I don't know if this can happen, but I know I wouldn't want to burst my stomach or cause a blockage or have digestive issues because I'm just eating nothing but meat, or I'm eating just such a massive amount of meat that the amount of fiber and water that I consume can't counteract that. It just doesn't seem feasible to me. There are different sources with how much protein that you want to eat in order to maintain your physical health or to build muscle, but like generally just trying to have consistent nutrition where you're consistently getting, let's say I think it's something like a half a gram at least per pound of body weight or something like that is a good rule of thumb per day. And like that's generally pretty good for at the very least maintaining the muscle that you have and making sure that you're not like losing nutritional benefits and risking injury and things like that, risking your immune health, which can get run down if you aren't taking in the correct nutrition. But yeah, protein's important, but vegetables, fruits, healthy fats are also important for healthy fats, long-term energy storage, always useful. They have other benefits. Fruits and vegetables, all the different vitamins and minerals that you can't really get directly, especially through like a lot of the processed meats that we have, at least in our part of the world, and that are sold on the open market. So yeah, fruits and vegetables, very important. And yeah, that's why you just whole grains, just actually having like real energy. And sure, you can get that from meat, but fucking cat, get away from there. Fucking cat, get away from there. Right. So you can get some carbohydrates from meat. But like honestly, in your day to day, if you aren't just working on just building muscle and not doing anything else, or especially if you're trying to do some cardio work to either lose weight or just keep up cardiovascular health, or because you're pursuing some hobby that you enjoy, like hiking or cycling or cross country skiing or anything like that, you need carbohydrates rather than just protein. If you really want that bodybuilder mindset, then sure, go all in on the protein. You don't really need that many carbs, but like in the end, for general health, and I guess depending on what you're doing, you do want a balanced diet. You just do. You like carnivore diet, keto, whatever, unproven benefits, but the proven benefit of having a balanced diet is literally from our Jesus Christ, cat. Jesus Christ. Sorry for saying the JC word. I don't mean to get all blasphemous here, but that cat is messing me up. Yeah, like literally in our history of our species, balanced diet is what you need. When we were hunter gatherers, is meat Sometimes more meat than vegetables, depending on the climate. Other times need vegetables. But overall, the way people have been the healthiest is by having a combination, ever since, agriculture started, combinations of grains, fruits, vegetables, proteins. That's it. You can't really get around that. And, certain dietary adjustments might augment certain parts of your life depending on what you're trying to do. But overall, just try the important thing is to actually just try and get nutrients so that your body can function correctly, and so that you're able to actually digest food and get nutrients from it, and not just eat a wasteful amount of one thing that your body just can't use anyway. You've seen those carnivore diets. Eventually, you're just eating enough protein and fats and things where your body just starts to excrete it. You start to sweat out cholesterol because your body can't fucking deal with that much of one thing. You don't need it. It's just a waste. It's like taking, a million vitamin supplements for vitamin D. Maybe if you're in a place with no sun, sure, take your vitamin supplements, figure out the measured amount that you need. But if you're going out and getting sunlight and then taking vitamin supplements, you're just gonna excrete it through through your piss or shit or whatever. It's not gonna matter. Same thing with proteins. Same things with, even with vitamin C, stuff like that. Sure, it's scientifically it's linked to immune health, but overloading on it, your body only uses so much. So once again, it's pointless to do certain things in excess in your diet, because your body just is not designed to utilize nutrients in that way. Yeah, that's about as much as I have to say on nutrition. Just from what I've discovered, just balanced diet, cutting out sugars and alcohol and other things, which is easier, and heavily processed, salty, fatty foods. Easier said than done, but you cut those things out that are obviously not healthy for you, that has been, drilled into our cultural health consciousness for years, that sugar, trans fats, and excess salt. It's not good for you. Your body craves it because in our DNA we need glucose, which is sugars, and we need salts in order to kind of keep our cells functioning. But that's a fluke. We don't need all those things. So if you're able to conquer that, and then just kind of eat real food from a variety of different food groups, then more likely than not you're gonna be fine. There's not going to be some magic thing where it's oh, I only drink muscle milk, and then I eat I eat 12 eggs and then drink muscle milk, and then my grocery bill is $40 a week and I just make gains. It's sure, but your teeth are going to be bad. Your digestive health is going to be probably pretty bad. And, frankly, once that much fat and cholesterol is going to catch up with you. So it's I don't believe in any of those stupid ass diets. Just eat regular food if you can afford it. And frankly, that's one thing that if you can afford anything, try and afford that. Because nutrition is the number one. No matter how much you go to the gym, it's nutrition. Damn, I've been talking for a while. I haven't spoken about anything else related to guy advice. But honestly, as kind of a quick episode, I think that's kind of good to stop it. Just to pause it there, give me a little more time to regroup and think about what else I'm going to talk about, because there's only so much I can talk about with myself. And additionally, I've already I've burnt my voice out. What does that even mean? I've burnt my voice out already. Jeez, yeah. No, it's definitely it's rough talking for 40 minutes straight, or however long this comes out to be once I cut it down. But trust me, it's a pain. But yeah, I'm definitely going to split this up into parts, because I can't even think about what my next topic was going to be. The main thing is going to be nutrition, and exercise, which I've already gotten into. But I have some other points that I'd like to make in the future, so I'll probably split this up. But until then, signing off. This has been On to the Next Thing. I'm your host, Michael Blank, and we'll see you next time.